April 1st, 1986. A day that began like any other in a sleepy little town in the American Midwest. But something dark was stirring behind the calm exterior. It wasn't a prank. It was a nightmare. It started with a group of friends, a bunch of college kids, looking for a laugh. You see, they chose the Jones family as their target for the ultimate prank. The Joneses were well known in town. A family of 4 who had built a comfortable life in a little home on Maple Street. Everyone knew them. Everyone loved them. The prank was simple enough. The kids broke into the house in the dead of night, thinking they could scare the family into thinking they were the victims of a home invasion. The plan was to create panic, make them think they were being robbed, and then jump out, laughing, and reveal it was just an April Fool's joke. But the prank spiraled out of control faster than anyone could imagine. The family, already on edge from a series of break-ins in the neighborhood, didn't react as expected. They didn't scream in terror. They didn't panic. They fought back. A scuffle broke out, the sounds of furniture overturning and objects crashing to the floor echoing through the house. The pranksters, armed with nothing but fake weapons, found themselves face to face with real fear. The Jones family wasn't backing down. They were ready to defend themselves, convinced that real intruders had entered their home. What followed was a horrifying, violent exchange, one that no one had ever seen coming. Screams echoed throughout the neighborhood. One of the neighbors who rushed to help described hearing gunshots. Gunshots. From a prank. By the time the authorities arrived, it was too late. The Jones family had been massacred. Blood stained the walls, and the house was in utter chaos. The group of pranksters had vanished, completely. Not a trace. No one knew who they were. Not a single witness could describe them. The authorities could find no physical evidence of the attackers. No fingerprints, no DNA, no suspects. The town was left reeling, but the mystery deepened. Who were these pranksters? What drove them to turn a harmless joke into such a tragedy? The identity of the perpetrators was never uncovered, and some people in town still swear the Jones family was murdered by someone they knew, someone close. It's a theory that sends shivers down my spine to this very day. The year was 1950, a different time. But one thing hadn't changed. April Fool's Day was still a day for jokes. And in London, the pranks weren't limited to just a whoopee cushion or fake spiders. No, this prank was more dangerous. And it came from the one place no one ever expected. The Ashbourne Hotel, an old, mysterious place, rumored to be haunted. It had a history. Some of it was true. Most of it, well, let's just say people didn't stay there long enough to find out. But when a popular London radio station decided to prank its audience by announcing that the Ashbourne was cursed, they never imagined the consequences. The radio show claimed that the hotel was haunted by the ghosts of former guests who had met untimely deaths. It wasn't just a normal broadcast. They embellished the stories. Ghostly apparitions, strange sounds in the halls, whispers in the night. They warned that anyone who stayed at the hotel on April 1st would be cursed. They even said the hotel had once been the site of a gruesome murder that had never been solved. But here's where things take a twisted turn. The night after the prank aired, people still came. They thought it was all a joke, just harmless fun. But by the next morning, some of them had changed. One woman claimed that during the night she had heard a child crying in the hallway, and when she checked, the hallway was empty. The crying continued. Another guest swore they saw a tall, thin figure standing at the end of their bed. The figure smiled and then disappeared. As more guests reported strange occurrences, the stories only grew darker. But it didn't stop there. People began to leave, and some of them didn't just leave the hotel. They left, mentally scarred. One man checked out the next day only to later be admitted to a psychiatric ward, unable to speak properly, claiming he was stuck in the curse. Another guest tried to take a picture in the hotel lobby, only to see something unnatural lurking in the background of the photo. Something that wasn't there when he took the picture. And here's the real kicker. The people who left, they couldn't escape it. They weren't just haunted by the hotel. They were haunted by something they couldn't explain. It was like the curse had followed them. And those who stayed long enough to experience the strange occurrences, well, they never spoke of it again. Was the curse real? Or did the prank awaken something much darker than anyone could have imagined? In 1963, the sleepy town of La Salle in France became the stage for a prank so terrifying that it still sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears about it. A group of college students, led by an ambitious young paranormal investigator, decided to create the ultimate April Fool's prank. They set up a haunted house, well, fake haunted house, right in the heart of the village. It was meant to be a fun challenge for the investigator, who had built a reputation for debunking ghost stories. The group made it eerie. Dim lighting, spooky sound effects, shadows flickering through the windows, and figures moving in the distance. But when the investigator arrived, something was off. At first, it was all in good fun. The investigator laughed it off, commenting on how impressive the setup was. But then, something happened. He went quiet. His eyes darted around, his face turning pale. He said he heard something. Whispers. Just whispers. No one else could hear them. And then, he vanished. Not a scream, not a struggle, just gone. The others thought it was part of the act. They checked every room, every corner, but there was no sign of him. His flashlight lay abandoned on the floor, its beam pointing to a wall that showed no signs of intrusion. No footprints, no sign of a break-in. On the wall, a note, scrawled hastily in what looked like chalk. The words were simple. The real ghost is among you. They searched for hours. Even the authorities were brought in. But it was as though he had disappeared into thin air. No clues. No trail. And here's the thing. Those who were there that night never spoke of it again. But some of them started experiencing strange things. Nightmares, voices in the dark, shadows in the corner of their eyes. One by one, they started to unravel. And some say that to this day, they're still searching for the investigator, or at least his spirit. What did they awaken that night? April 1st, 1977, Ohio. The Smith family, 2 parents, 2 kids, simply vanished. No one saw them leave. No one heard a thing. It was as if they had disappeared from existence. Neighbors reported hearing strange noises coming from the house that night. Things like chairs scraping across the floor, muffled voices, and strange banging noises. They just assumed it was part of the April Fool's festivities. But then, nothing. No movement. No sounds. When authorities arrived the next morning, the house was in total disarray. There was no sign of the family, but the house was destroyed. Furniture was overturned. The kitchen looked like it had been ransacked, but the strangest part, the entire house was untouched by anything that could explain it. Then they found the notes, scattered around the house, each note written in the family's handwriting. One note stood out, more chilling than the rest. It simply read, "You'll regret trying to play the fool." It made no sense. The family had no enemies. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle. They just vanished. What happened to them? Some say it was part of an elaborate prank that went wrong. Others claim that it was something more sinister. And to this day, no one knows where they went, or if they'll ever come back. So, next time you think about a harmless prank, think twice, because sometimes the joke's on you, and you might not live to laugh about it.